US President Donald Trump signed a number of executive orders aimed at undoing many of the policies implemented by the Biden administration. Soon after his swearing in, Trump signed an order to withdraw the United States from the Paris Climate Agreement for a second time. The US President followed this by signing a formal letter to the United Nations notifying the global body of the country's intent to leave the landmark 2015 Accord, which seeks to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions driving climate change. Donald Trump signed an order for the United States to exit the World Health Organization, which he had previously attacked over his COVID response. Signing the order at the White House, Trump said the United States was unfairly paying less than China into the UN body and added, World Health ripped us off.
Not when you're being ripped off like we are by the World Health. World Health ripped us off. Everybody rips off the United States, and that's it. It's not going to happen anymore.
Trump has pardoned about 1,500 participants in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol by his supporters trying to overturn the 2020 election. Trump said that 6 defendants would have their sentences shortened. The moves fulfill a campaign promise by Trump to aid supporters who were charged and in many cases imprisoned for crimes committed during the riot, a failed attempt to stop the congressional certification of Democrat Joe Biden's 2020 election victory.
This is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon. We have about 6 commutations in there where we're doing further research.
Trump also signed an executive order seeking to delay by 75 days the enforcement of a ban of popular short video app TikTok that was slated to be shuttered on January 19. Trump said US should get 50% ownership of the platform.
Just gave me the right to sell it or close it. Essentially with TikTok, I have the right to either sell it or close it. And we'll make that determination. And we may have to get an approval from China too, I'm not sure. But I'm sure they'll approve it. And if they don't approve it, it would be somewhat of a hostile act, I think. But it's good for China if it gets approved.
Trump also signed an executive order requiring federal workers return to the office full-time. The measure was one of several executive orders Trump signed during a public event at an arena in Washington attended by thousands of his supporters. The measure requires employees to return to work in person at their respective duty stations on a full-time basis, provided that the department and agency heads shall make exemptions they deem necessary. Trump also revoked a 2023 executive order signed by Joe Biden that sought to reduce the risks that artificial intelligence poses to consumers, workers, and national security. A number of other orders were also signed in front of supporters inside the arena in Washington, D.C. The other orders signed in front of supporters include the rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, a freeze on all federal hiring, excepting the military and a number of others excluded categories until full control of the government is achieved, a regulatory freeze preventing bureaucrats from issuing any more regulations, a directive to every department and agency in the federal government to address the cost of living, a directive to the federal government ordering the restoration of freedom of speech and preventing government censorship of free speech, a directive to the federal government ending the weaponization of government against the political advisories of the previous administration. US President Donald Trump signed an executive action to create an advisory group called the Department of Government Efficiency. The advisory group, being run by Tesla CEO Elon Musk, is aimed at eliminating entire federal agencies and cutting 3/4 of federal government jobs. Trump tapped billionaire entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy to head Department of Government Efficiency alongside Musk. But Ramaswamy has reportedly decided to step aside and run instead for governor of the Midwestern state of Ohio. All right, and for more, we have Anil Thomas, DD India correspondent, joining us live. Hi Anil, a very good morning to you. You know, a series of executive orders were signed by Donald Trump in the first round. Tell us about that and their possible implications.
Well, good morning, Siddharth. You know, very much on expected lines. See, this is a vindication of a man and the moment that he's taken, in his first term, and he continues in his second version. Remember, Trump loves to be a little different, a little outrageous. That's what we saw in Trump 1.0.
Yeah.
And 2.0 doesn't seem to be any different. You know, it's put everyone on the edge of the seat. You know, many countries are looking at various options or various announcements that he's made, especially when it comes to in his or in his election campaign, especially when it comes to immigration, when it comes to other crises like trade, and also the executive orders that he's done. See, remember, he's not touched anything on tariffs. And I think that comes as a big relief to the world, you know, because he's not talked on anything with regards to tariff. He's walked a tight line when it comes to tariffs in his political speeches, 10% to 60%, but nothing much on day one of that executive orders that he signed. So the world looks at it with a piece of, you know, a little bit of calm. That, you know, all that walking the talk is tough for Trump, you know, and I think that's what makes it difficult. But then, you know, for once, America is bold, America is looking very controversial, and I think Trump is going to lead that, especially with the executive orders that he signed. He's not going to, you know, now he has the numbers, he has everything going for him. He has a wafer-thin majority even in the Senate, and that makes things interesting, not only for the Americans, especially when it comes to, you know, rather bringing down the cost of living for Americans, but also making it tough for the world, especially when it comes to trading with America. And I think he's got his agenda right. It's for the world now to toe in line. Remember, America is the world's largest economy. America has also got the geopolitical going for them. So it becomes difficult for the world now to maneuver, to find ways on how to walk hand in hand with Trump, especially the days ahead.
Indeed. Also, Anil, Trump has withdrawn from Paris Climate Agreement for the second time. He's repeatedly referred to climate change as a hoax. What does this indicate, Anil? And also, what are his plans when it comes to TikTok as of now?
Well, especially when it comes to first the issue of climate change, you know, him withdrawing from the Paris Accord of 2015 was very much indicative. He didn't seem to be on the same page even during his first term. He did then flex his arms, but this time around he's put pen to paper. The rubber is on the road, if one may say, especially when it comes to the Paris Accord, and he's stuck to the guns of, you know, it being a waste, it being rather increasing cost, especially when it comes to the Americans. And I think his idea is very clear: more drilling, more oil that can be created, as a result of which you can tame inflation, you can bring down cost, you can bring benefits to the Americans. And remember, America has got one of the worst wildfires, one of the hottest summers that America has seen, especially California and other states. Not only that, they have also faced 2 hurricanes. So keeping all that in mind, also remember the Democrats had banned especially drilling in Alaska, also in some parts of America. I think Trump gets a great opportunity here, using that leverage to get going, especially when it comes to drilling and bringing down the cost of living for Americans. On the TikTok front, remember, it was Trump who banned TikTok along with WeChat in 2020 during his first term. But having said that, TikTok was up for sale for 9 months. There were no tentative buyers or prospective buyers who had the firepower to buy it. So having said that, not much of leeway was possible with TikTok, and TikTok owners, ByteDance, had indicated they were in no mood to sell it. But having said that, TikTok's owner, the ByteDance CEO, was there in the front row when Trump took oath. So it was very indicative that there is going to be a softening of stance by the Trump administration. And I think this particular time gap that has been given gives a great window of opportunity for both to save face. And I think 50% of ownership is something that even ByteDance could agree, because at the end of the day, ByteDance TikTok disappeared just before his vote-taking ceremony on Saturday. TikTok was off the American network, and it's back there in America, especially in full use. And I think the middle path has been found by Trump, especially with the time gap or a time frame that's been given. I think that would be used to the fullest.
Anil, during my conversation with you, in the beginning, you mentioned about the tariffs. Donald Trump also pledged tariffs of 10% on global imports, 60% on Chinese goods, and about 25% import surcharge on Canadian and Mexican products. What updates do you have on this?
Well, not much expected there. At least in the first day of office, the world was watching with bated breath what could be the tariffs. He's announced from a scale of 10% to 60%. What would his first signatures be on? That's the executive orders that we're looking at. Nothing on tariffs. That leaves the world with a lot of relief. But that also doesn't rule out the option that he's not going to bring it on the table. So it's going to be a tight walk, especially for the world looking at how things are. But at least the Chinese would realize, also the Russians would also realize, even on the Russia-Ukraine war, the angle that he's taken, 100-day timeline for the war to end, that's something that he's spoken about time and again. And I think, especially when it comes to ending the war or with regards to tariffs, it's a tight walk. As I said, walking the talk is difficult.
Yeah.
All the, heavy lifting that he's done in his political campaigning, when you come to put pen to paper, it's a bit tough. And I think the first day of executive orders don't make any mention of tariffs. Immigration's a light mention is there, but nothing on tariffs. That leaves everybody happy, but we'll have to wait and watch when does he bring it to the table, because this is not something that he's going to let go. It is just that he's not touched on it on the first day of office,
correct.
But he's surely going to bring it back to the table. And I think the world would have, would be looking at plan A, plan B, plan C, even plan D, because not knowing exactly what can Trump, come up with. And I think that's what leaves everybody, at least on day one, happy. But you got to be watchful of something controversial, something surprising that comes your way, especially with Trump managing America.
All right, Anil, wonderful analysis by you. But since this is developing, we'll keep taking you there. We'll keep asking you some other information and inputs as well. But as of now, we leave it there. Thank you so much.